This dwelling was located on Cottage Grove. It used to be a two-story single-family mansion with an attic and a basement. The new owners separated the floors and turned it into a three-story apartment building. Strange things were always happening there. Unimaginable things. Things that couldn't be explained by science or plain logic. This place was pure hell and chaos, and it affected everybody that lived there. People that rented the second floor were always moving out in the dead of night. This building has since been torn down.
Hello guys, how are you? It's still warm outside. I hope you're having a nice day. I am back with another ghost story. This is from the Cottage Grove series. So like I was explaining in the first video, this street was filled with brownstone buildings, but they weren't connected together like the normal brownstone buildings that you might see in New York or whatever. These buildings had gangways on each side of the building, so you could walk from the front all the way to the back where the alley was on each side of the building. So that was pretty cool. And then, like I said, when you walk up the stairs and go through the first door, that was like the hallway to where that leads up to the other apartments. Now, I would like to make a correction. I think I said in the first video that the stairs to the basement was on the left side. That was not correct. The stairs to the basement was on the right side of the when you first walk in the door. You had the directly to your right was stairs that went up to the second floor. So right next to there, like the stairs was here that goes to the second floor, and then right in that little nook was a door that went down to the basement. Now, our maintenance man, his name was Crook. He lived in the basement. And then, of course, my family and I, we were on the first floor. And then you go up to the stairs, the first set of stairs to the second floor. And there was a family there. And then you go upstairs to the attic space. It was a third floor. I don't know. For some reason, it reminded me of an attic. I only went up there once with my mom's. And to me, it looked like an attic, but it wasn't. It was a third floor. And a gay female couple lived there named Penny and Marie. Now, whatever was going on in this building was going on throughout the whole building. Things were happening in the basement, first floor, second floor, third floor. Even though we didn't talk about it amongst each other, the neighbors and everything, you could still tell that that something was going on, because the second floor apartment was always empty. People would move in and then they would sneak and move out in the dead of night. And you could always hear things rumbling around in the basement. You could hear things upstairs, the third floor, the attic space. You could hear things, like sounded like furniture moving around on the third floor. Now, we knew Crook that was in the basement. We talked to him all the time. We knew Penny and Marie. We talked to them all the time. We didn't know much about the second floor neighbors. We would hear them coming in and out. And sometimes if we were out in the hallway and they were coming in, they would always speak. They were nice people. They just, we just didn't communicate with them like we did Crook and Penny and Marie. Now, Marie, she worked. She would go to work every day, and Penny was like the homemaker. She stayed at home all the time. Marie was dark skinned, Penny was fair skinned, and you could tell she was mixed with like maybe Indian or whatever, because her hair was like shiny and wavy and everything, and thick or whatever. Both of the women were very, very, very beautiful, but they fought all the time. You could hear them fighting, and they would fight sometimes half the night and everything before things get quiet. And Penny, she would come downstairs and she would knock on the door, and my moms would come out into the hallway, and they would talk until uh, Marie got home. And then when Marie got home, then Penny was ready to go upstairs. And that's when we would notice that's when they fought a lot. And then, of course, we wouldn't see Penny for sometimes a week or so. And then she would finally come back downstairs, and she'd have on the black sunglasses or dark sunglasses or whatever. And we knew, even as kids, we knew that, Marie had beat her up. So moms had asked Penny one day, why does Marie keep jumping on you, and fighting you? And so Marie, Penny, she would tell mom, said, well, she's really jealous and controlling, and she wants me to stay in the house all day. She don't want me talking to anybody. The only time I can go out of the house is if we're going together, so uh, my mom's also mentioned about the noise that would go on upstairs after, because we could hear every time somebody went out the front door, we could hear the door. Oh, you could hear somebody coming down the stairs. We never knew who it was, but we could hear somebody coming down the stairs. And of course you hear the front door opening and so forth. And moms had mentioned, not really in a joke way, but kind of calm and quiet like. And she had mentioned to Penny, said, well, y'all must be fighting so much, till when Marie goes to work, you have to put the furniture back in place. So Penny asked moms, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And moms told us, well, I hear furniture and stuff moving upstairs. And Penny tells moms, that's not me. I'm not moving any furniture upstairs. So moms left it alone or whatever. Now, the funny thing, even though Marie was the jealous type, she never said anything to moms. She would always speak respectfully and everything, but she would never confront moms about, her and Penny talking. I think she was scared of moms, because when moms was younger, she was a real hell raiser. She wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of anybody. And if she had to fight, she would fight. So Marie, she would come in and she would see Penny downstairs in the hallway. Because moms even asked Penny one day, say, well, why don't you stay upstairs? And, instead of coming down here talking to me, you don't have to come down here and talk to me. And Penny just politely said, I don't want to be upstairs by myself. I hate being upstairs by myself. Well, we had stuff going on downstairs in our apartment too, but for some reason, nobody mentioned it to each other. So, like I said, when they would get into a fight, we wouldn't see Penny for sometimes a week, sometimes a week and a half or whatever. And so after the last fight, we didn't see Penny for about 2 weeks after that. And Penny finally came downstairs. Of course, she had on the same sunglasses and everything. And Mom's told her, said, well, if it's going to cause you trouble, maybe you shouldn't come back down here anymore. And so she tells mom, she said, well, I told you I don't like to be upstairs by myself. If I can't talk to you, I'll just sit on the stairs and wait for her to come in. And so mom said, well, why don't you fight her back? Because, you know, if you let her keep jumping on you and beating on you and stuff like that, you could end up getting hurt. You could end up getting killed. Why don't you fight her back? So Penny told mom, she said, well, she always called mom's mama. And she said, mama, I'm not a fighter. Marie is bigger than me. She's stronger than me. She said, I'm not a fighter. So then mom's told her, said, well, if you are not willing to protect yourself, why don't you leave? So then she explained to moms that she was afraid to leave because, she was afraid that Marie would hunt her down and hurt her really bad. So, moms was trying to help her come up with a lot of different solutions to keep her out of trouble. And I guess Penny just came right out and told mom, say, Marie is so jealous. It doesn't matter what I do or don't do. She's always going to find a reason to jump on me. If dinner is late, if I didn't fix something that she liked to eat, she said she'll find a reason to jump on me. She said, there's nothing I can do, to please her or whatever. So what Penny started doing was, now she wouldn't come downstairs when she first got up in the morning. It would always be like a few hours before Marie got home. But what Penny started doing was, Penny would come downstairs and knock on the door, and she would always be sitting on the stairs talking to moms. Moms would be standing in the doorway, even when Marie was coming in. Moms would be standing in the doorway, and Marie would be like maybe 6 feet or whatever, sitting on the stairs. Penny would, waiting for Marie to come home. But what Penny started doing was, she would come downstairs, she would knock on the door, she would go and sit on the stairs, and then a half an hour before Marie got home, she would go back upstairs and start doing whatever she was doing. And so, we all thought, well, okay, so as long as she go back in the house long before Marie get home, it probably wouldn't be a problem. Well, one day, I don't know what happened at Marie's job, but she got off early and she came and, come in, and it didn't give Penny a chance to get up and leave. And so Penny got up and was standing up, getting ready to go back upstairs. Marie came through the door. She spoke to moms like she always do. She called moms mama too. And she spoke to moms like she always do. And she looked at Penny and she told Penny, she said, don't go upstairs now, just like that. And then she turned around and she looked at mom. She said, I'll see you later, mama. And we all went back in the house, because when moms would be standing at the door talking to Penny, while Penny was sitting on the stairs, I'd always be standing there too, and like I said, both of the women was so, so, so beautiful. Picture perfect. It's just that, unfortunately, Marie was the mean one. But anyway, when moms and I went back in the house and closed the door, my dad came in a short time afterwards, and moms told dad what was going on and everything. And she said, watch and see. They're going to start fighting, shortly. And sure enough, shortly after that, you could hear bumping and rumbling and hollering and screaming and all this, that, and the other. And moms had told my dad, you should go down the street and call the police. Said Marie might kill Penny up there. And my dad, he was the type of person, he didn't really want to get involved in, other people's business and everything. And he kind of shrugged it off and he said, well, I don't think that she's gonna kill her or anything. So they always fight. They fight all the time. And so after a few hours, everything calmed down and everything. And we heard the neighbors on the second floor leave out to go to work and everything. And we heard Marie leave out and go to work. But we didn't hear anything from Penny. But we always knew whenever Marie jumped on Penny wouldn't come around for a while, a week or two or whatever. So we didn't see Penny until about maybe 3 weeks later. And I mean, you could still hear rumbling and moving around upstairs when Marie was gone to work. So we knew she was up there. She just didn't come down to visit like she normally do. But we figured that, she wanted to let her wounds and stuff heal before she come down, because that's what she always do. Whenever Marie jumped on her, you wouldn't see her for a week, couple of weeks, and this time it was about 3 weeks. And when she came downstairs and she knocked on the door, and by the time moms came and opened the door, she was already sitting on the stairs. So moms asked her, said, "Are you okay?" And Penny said, "Yeah, I'm okay." And moms noticed something on her arm. And when she came out the door and to take a closer look, she saw a cast on Penny's arm. And mom said, "What happened to you? Did you fall or something?" Because Marie had never went that far as breaking bones. She would beat her up, slap her around, or whatever. But she had never went that far as breaking bones. So Marie started crying and she said, I'm sorry, I keep getting them mixed up. Penny started crying and said, "Marie broke my arm." And moms felt so bad. And she said she took me to the hospital and stayed with me and everything. So moms was asking her, said, "Well, why don't you call the police on her?" And so, that was the last thing moms could mention to her. "Why don't you call the police on her?" So Penny was like, "Well, I don't really have a place to go right now. My family is mad at me because I'm with Marie and everything." And she said, "I know." She said, "I love Marie so much." She said, "I know Marie loves me and everything." She said, "But I can't take it anymore." She said, "The next time she jumps on me, I'm going to leave." She said, "I'm serious. I'm going to leave." And mom's like, "You're not going to leave her. You just said you love her." She said, "Mama, I am going to leave. The next time she jumps on me," she said, "I'm going to wait until she goes to work. And when she come back, I'm going to be gone. I'm going to take whatever little clothes that I can take with me, and I'm leaving." And so moms was like, "Okay." Now, this particular time, Penny didn't stay sitting on the stairs talking to moms as long as she normally do. After she told moms that, she said, "Mom, I'll see you later." And so mom said, "Okay, if you need me, let me know." And Penny turned around as she was going up the stairs and she's like, "No, I'm okay." She said, "Really, I'm okay." And she went back up the stairs and everything. And we went back in the house. Now, I don't know what happened this time, because Penny was not out there in the hallway sitting on the stairs when Marie got home. But I would say 2 or 3 days later, we heard them fighting again. And Marie, normally she comes downstairs every day. Once she started coming downstairs, she would come down there every day. But after she had told moms that if Marie jumped on her again, that she was going to leave, Penny didn't come back downstairs. So we hadn't seen her in like 2 or 3 days. And then we heard the fighting again. I mean, you could hear walking around upstairs or whatever. So we knew that she was up there, but she just didn't come back downstairs. So like I said, 2 or 3 days later, we heard some fighting and everything upstairs and everything. And we heard the same hollering and screaming or whatever. And it lasted as long as it normally lasts. And, half the night, nobody could get any sleep when they was doing all that loud, you know, going on and everything. And like I said, in the middle of the night, it finally stopped and calmed down. So the next day, we heard the people coming downstairs from the second floor, leaving out to go to work. We heard Marie come downstairs. But we didn't hear, we didn't hear Penny or anything. It was pretty quiet upstairs. So after a few days had passed, we still didn't hear anybody upstairs. Marie didn't come back. So moms went and knocked on the door, and the basement door. So Crook came up and answered the door. He said, what you need? And so moms was mentioning to him, say, do you know if they moved out from the third floor? Because I don't hear anybody. Say, I heard some people leave a few days ago, and I haven't heard anything upstairs. Now, we would hear the people that lived on the second floor come back, but we never heard anybody taking that extra flight of stairs going up to the third floor. And so Crook said, by them being on the third floor, if they left in the middle of the night and didn't move any furniture out, he said, I wouldn't know, if they moved out or not. So mom said, okay. And then about a week later, the owner came and knocked on the door, and mom's answered the door, and he's like, I'm sorry to bother you, but have you seen the neighbors on the third floor? Mom said, why? What's going on? And he said, well, their rent was due a few days ago, and as long as they've been here, they've always paid their rent on time. But they haven't paid rent this month, and I've been trying to call. Nobody's answering the phone or anything, and I want to know, if they moved out, because like I said, you could never keep anybody on the second floor. They was always sneaking and moving out in the middle of the night. But anyway, mom said, well, I haven't seen either one of them, in a while. So mom said, well, why don't you go upstairs and check? So he went upstairs and he knocked on the door and everything. Nobody answered. And so he came back downstairs. He said, nobody's answering. So mom said, well, why don't you go in the apartment? You have keys to the apartment. If they owe you rent and everything, you need to go in the apartment and see if they moved out. And so he was telling moms, he said, well, I can't do that right now. I would have to wait a certain amount of time. Then I would be able to go in, and see if they moved out. He said, but if you hear from them or if you see them coming in, tell them to please, give me a call. So mom said, okay. So he left out. So I would say almost a month passed, and well, no, not quite a month. I would say maybe about 2.5 to 3 weeks or whatever, something like that. 10 days, 14 days. I can't remember now. It's been such a long time ago. But my dad came in from work, and moms had mentioned, said, it's a funny thing, said, I haven't heard from Penny in a while. And she told us that the landlord came by looking for him. He said he haven't heard from him either. And mom's asked dad, said, well, you think something happened to Penny? And so my dad said, well, the last thing you told me was that Penny said she was going to leave Marie. So Penny probably moved out and Marie probably moved out. So mom said, okay. And then a few days passed, and mom's really started worrying and everything. And when my dad came in from work, mom's asked my dad, said, well, why don't you go upstairs and knock on the door and see if anybody's up there? So my dad asked her, said, well, have you heard anybody moving around up there? And she said, no, but Marie would try to Penny would try to contact me some type of way, even if she did leave, to let me know that she was okay and in a safe place. So my dad went upstairs and he knocked on the door. Of course, there was no answer and it was quiet up there, and he came back downstairs. And so my mom's told him, said, do me a favor and go down to the corner and call the police and have them do, a wellness check, because if Penny is upstairs hurt or something, she might need some help. So my dad went down to the corner and called the police. It took him about 15, 20 minutes to get there and everything. And they wanted to know what was going on. And my mom's told them that they would fight all the time. And Marie would beat up Penny and stuff. And, and after they've had a fight, you wouldn't see Penny for a few days, but she would always come down, after a while, and she'd sit on the stairs and talk to me, said, but I haven't heard anybody upstairs. So the police said the same thing that my dad said. Maybe they moved out. And mom said, well, if she said, Marie wouldn't tell me if they were moving out, but Penny would tell me that she was moving out. And if she's heard upstairs, I want her to get some help. So the police said, well, okay, I'll go up there and check. And one police went upstairs and he was knocking on the door. The other policeman, he was standing downstairs. He was still talking to moms. And he kept knocking and knocking and knocking. And he said, I don't hear anybody in there. They're probably gone, ma'am. And so he was coming back downstairs and they was getting ready to leave. And mom said, listen, if there's any way you can get into the apartment, please, go in there and check, because I'm telling you, I know Penny. And if they had moved out, she said, like I said, Marie wouldn't tell me, but Penny would tell me when she was leaving. So both of them went back up the stairs, and they knocked on the door again, no answer. And so they broke the door down. And one of the police hollered downstairs, said, well, all their furniture is here, but nobody is here. So they either plan on coming back or they just left because, they don't want to pay rent or whatever, but nobody is here. Then all of a sudden, one of the policemen called the other one and said, well, come here. I want you to, check this out. And you could hear walking around um, across the floor and everything. And you could hear some mumbling, real low mumbling. By it being on the third floor, you couldn't really hear anything. And then about 15 minutes later, the second police officer came back downstairs. And as he was walking out the front door, he was calling to have an ambulance sent there. And he stayed outside for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. And then he came back inside and he went back upstairs. And Moms was trying to find out what was going on. They didn't have time to talk to her. One of them came back downstairs and Mom said, please tell me what's going on. Please tell me what's going on. And the officer that came back downstairs said that they found Penny's body in the bedroom. Her face and head was caved in. She had something around her neck. And of course, being up there that long, she was also decomposing, but you could still see that her face and head was caved in. And oh my gosh, that was the worst. That was the worst situation, the worst thing I had ever heard in my life, because the only thing I could picture in my mind was the last time I saw her sitting on the stairs with the cast on her arm. And she was such a nice and beautiful person. How could anybody do that to her? And it was just the worst thing. I'm sorry, guys. It was just the worst thing I had ever heard as a kid. The moms made me go back inside the house, and they came back downstairs and they was asking Moms a whole lot of questions, like, when is the last time you saw either one of them? And Moms was telling them about the fight. And she was saying that she heard one of them leave, which was Marie, but she didn't hear anything more from Penny. Marie had killed Penny. And to this day, I don't know what would cause her to go that far, because they always fought and everything. So I had talked to my brother about this, I think it was last month. And he was saying, and I asked him, I said, well, do you think they ever caught Marie? Because, we never heard anything about it anymore. And my brother was saying, oh yeah, they probably caught her and everything. We didn't have any information to give the police officers as far as where to look or whatever, because even though, well, Marie never talked to us. I mean, she would speak to my moms, but that's as far as it went. I'm sorry, guys. Every time I think of that story, it really brings me to tears. And talking about it, I can actually see Penny's face. She was real light skinned, like a high yellow color, and you can tell that she was mixed with Indian because of her hair. Her hair was shiny and wavy and everything. Okay, so anyway, guys, that is the end of this story. And like I said, please forgive me, guys. I apologize. But anyway, check out please check out my other ghost stories series and everything. Um, and please come back and visit the channel. If you love ghost stories, I have a whole bunch of them. And you guys, thank you uh, for supporting me by coming on to the channel and watching and everything. And like I always say, even though in some videos I don't remember to say it, let's work together to live better. And always, always, thank you for watching.